Farm unions write to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, seek resumption of dialogue to end agitation. Farm leaders appeal to protesters to postpone dharna on borders due to pandemic. Major cyber attack in Air India. A decade-old personal details of passengers were stolen. National carrier initiates investigation against the security breach. Resets passwords of Air India frequent flyer passenger program. Cumulative vaccine coverage exceeds 19.32 crore. More than 92.7 lakh beneficiaries of age group 18 to 44 vaccinated so far. More than 13.8 lakh vaccine doses administered in the last 24 hours. Cyclonic storm in Bay of Bengal. Indian Coast Guard initiates preemptive measures on eastern coast as cyclone Yas approaches. Coastal districts of Odisha on high alert. Nepal President Bidya Devi Bhandari dissolves House of Representatives, announces polls on November 12th and 19th. Also denies claims by both Sher Bahadur Deba and KP Sharma Oli for Prime Ministership. And US calls for two-state solution on Israel-Palestine conflict. Welcome ceasefire, discusses measure for better future of Palestinians and Israelis. US President Joe Biden reaffirms unwavering commitment and support to Israel. Namaskar, I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Let's start with the top story. The Samyukt Kisan Morcha has written to Prime Minister Narendra Modi urging resumption of talks over the 3 farm laws they have been agitating against at Delhi borders since November last year. Several rounds of talks between farmers and the government have failed to break the deadlock over the 3 central legislations. A government panel had met farmer leaders on January 22nd and there has been no talks between the two sides since January 26 when the tractor rally turned violent. The farmers' body has said that they don't wish that any farmer gets exposed to the health hazards of the pandemic and has urged the government to reinitiate a dialogue with the protesting farmers. Now, India continues to fight the COVID-19 global pandemic with all the resources at its disposal. And in the last 24 hours, 2,57,000 new cases of COVID infections have been reported, whereas in the same period, more than 3,57,000 patients have recovered and were discharged. Total active caseload is 29,23,400. 4,194 people lost the battle to the virus in the last 24 hours. And so far, there have been 2,95,525 deaths in the nation. India continues to achieve greater milestones in the vaccination drive with over 19.32 crore doses administered so far. More than 5 crore 63 lakh beneficiaries above the age group of 60 years received their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine and 1 crore 81 lakh have received the second dose of the vaccine. The ministry said that more than 6,63,000 people between the age group of 18 to 44 took the first dose of the vaccine yesterday, and in total more than 92,73,000 people of this age group have received the first dose of the vaccine across the country. And the ICMR has released the data related to the total number of tests conducted in the country. Around 32 crore 64 lakh 84,155 samples have been tested for COVID-19 up to 21st May 2021, and of these 20 lakh 66,285 samples were tested on May 21st. Talking about states now, acting on the advice of the experts, the Karnataka government has extended lockdown till 7th June. The Chief Minister, seeking people's cooperation, underscored the need for COVID-appropriate behavior of wearing face masks in public places, maintaining hygiene and social distancing. He further added there will be no restrictions on interstate and intrastate movement of persons as permitted by the revised guidelines, and there will be unrestricted and smooth movement of all types of goods, including empty goods vehicles. The state has also decided to give free treatment to the patients suffering from black fungus in government hospitals. And Kerala has also extended the lockdown till 30th May. Triple lockdown has been lifted from Thiruvananthapuram, Ernakulam and Thrissur as the cases have been steadily declining there, whereas stringent restrictions will stay in Mallappuram. And talking about Goa, it has extended the lockdown till 31st May. The state had announced statewide curfew on 9th May after a surge in the cases was witnessed. The decision to extend the period of ongoing lockdown came after yesterday's cabinet meeting. Goa CM Pramod Sawant has decided to form a 15-member special task force and an experts committee to tackle and prepare for a possible third wave of the global pandemic. CM will head the STF while Health Minister will be the deputy in charge. And Ladakh administration has also increased the curfew in Leh and Kargil districts. The curfew has been extended by 14 days in Leh and for 7 days in Kargil. And Madhya Pradesh has decided to increase the corona curfew in the state capital Bhopal till 31st May. Moving further, a Bangalore-based startup has developed a novel point-of-care electrochemical Elisa test that has enabled fast and accurate estimation of total antibody concentration of COVID-19 in clinical samples. Pathshod Healthcare, the startup incubated at the Indian Institute of Science, has developed the first of its kind kit. The test kit comes in two parts. One is the handheld analyzer, which reads the blood sample and gives a detailed report. The other is a test strip where a drop of blood from one's fingertip is inserted into the device. The test is not only useful as a routine serosurvey tool to establish a previous infection, but even more importantly as a quantifier of antibodies to address such critical questions as the rate of fading of antibodies and in general understanding of biological responses that depends on the quantity of antibodies, such as the efficacy of vaccines in generating antibodies and vaccine breakthroughs. This novel technology can work with venous or capillary whole blood sample as well as serum sample. And talking about black fungus now, several thousand coronavirus patients in India have contracted a deadly and aggressive fungal infection, compounding the country's troubles as it reels from the pandemic. Mucormycosis, also known as black fungus infection, is not a new disease. Such infections were reported even before the pandemic. So, its incidence, however, was very low. Now, due to COVID-19, this rare but fatal fungal infection is being reported in large numbers. Let us learn what we can do to protect ourselves and our dear and near ones. Medicines used in treating COVID-19 tend to bring down the count of lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are one of the three types of white blood cells whose job is to defend our body against disease-causing pathogens such as bacteria, viruses and parasites. The reduced count of lymphocytes makes way for opportunistic fungal infection, and there is a higher chance of occurrence of mucormycosis in patients whose immune system is not functioning well. And since COVID-19 treatment tends to suppress the working of the immune system, it places such patients at higher risk of contracting the black fungus infection. So, mucormycosis can be categorized depending on which organ of the human body it attacks. Rhino-orbital cerebral mucormycosis infection occurs when fungal spores are inhaled. It infects the nose, orbit of eye-to-eye socket, oral cavity and can even spread to the brain. Symptoms include headache, nasal congestion, nasal discharge of green color, pain in sinus, bleeding nose, swelling on face, lack of sensation on face and skin discoloration. So, pulmonary mucormycosis. Now, when spores are breathed in and reach the respiratory system, it affects the lungs. Symptoms are fever, chest pain, cough and coughing of blood. The fungus can also infect gastrointestinal tract, skin and other organs, but the most common form is rhinocerebral mucormycosis. And now, what are the preventive measures to be taken by COVID-19 patients? So, these are the measures. People with following medical conditions should be more careful. They should constantly monitor their health and also take the following preventive measures. So, first is diabetic patient with uncontrolled diabetes plus steroid usage plus COVID positive. All three combined together places one under high risk of getting this infection. Hence, diabetic patients should always monitor and control their blood sugar levels. Another rising concern is that of misuse of steroids that directly affects one's immune system. So, it is advised that if a COVID infected person's oxygen saturation level is normal and he or she is categorized as clinically mild, steroids should be completely avoided. Now, the question remains that where are these fungi found? So, here it is. Mucormycosis is caused by a group of molds called mucormycetes. It is naturally found in air, water and even food. So, it enters the body through fungal spores from the air or can also occur on skin after a cut, burn or skin injury. So, what are the preventive measures now to be followed? Cleaning and replacement of humidifiers for those using oxygen concentrators should be practiced. Sterile normal saline should be used in the humidifier bottle and changed daily. And lastly, masks should be disinfected daily. So, it is advised that if anybody notices pain and redness around their eyes and nose, fever, epistaxis, that is bleeding from the nose, nasal or sinus congestion, headache, cough, shortness of breath, vomiting of blood, altered mental status and partial loss of vision, they should not miss these minor symptoms. And in the end, it also becomes the responsibility of the doctors and other healthcare workers to advise the COVID-19 patients about early symptoms of black fungus upon their discharge. So, the battle against corona pandemic is underway across the country and the Indian Railways continues its effort to the war. In continuous effort, the 7th Oxygen Express reaches Bengaluru from Jollarpettai junction with 6 containers transporting 120 metric ton liquid medical oxygen. The Oxygen Express was piloted by all female crew members. To augment the ongoing search and rescue operations for the missing crew of barge P305 and tug Varaprada, specialized diving team on board INS Makar with side scan sonar and INS Tarasa sailed out early morning today from Mumbai. The death toll on barge P305 that sank in the Arabian Sea on Monday reached 60 on Friday, with the recovery of 11 more bodies, even as the Navy and the Coast Guard continued the search for the 15 missing personnel from the barge and 11 from Varaprada. Of the 261 personnel who were on barge P305, 186 have been recovered so far. And of the 13 persons on Varaprada, 2 have been rescued, while all the 40 persons on barges Gull Constructor and Support Station 3 and the drill ship Sagar Bhushan were brought ashore to safety. Naval and Coast Guard vessels and aircraft scoured the waters of the Mumbai coast as the search and rescue operations entered the 6th day on Saturday. And talking about cyclone Yas now, in view of the cyclonic storm in the Bay of Bengal, Indian Coast Guard initiates preemptive measures on eastern coast. So, India Coast Guard ships and aircrafts on east coast have relayed weather warning to mariners and fishermen at sea. Meanwhile, all the shipping ports, fisheries, oil rigs and other shore authorities have also informed about the likelihood of the cyclone. Odisha has put all coastal and adjoining districts in the state on high alert. And the state administration is geared up to meet the eventuality of the cyclone Yas, and all concerned departments including electricity companies, rural and urban water supply departments, health departments, Odisha Disaster Response Force and NDRF teams have been put on alert to be in readiness with the manpower and material. The fisheries department, through its warning system, has almost brought back the fishermen who were in the sea, excepting 39 persons who are also expected to come back by Saturday. 2 airplanes and ships of the Indian Coast Guard, Paradeep, are patrolling in the sea to guide ships, fishing boats to come to the shore well before the cyclone.
Is very likely to move northwestwards and intensify into a cyclonic storm on 24th May. It would continue to move northwestwards, intensify further and reach North Bay of Bengal near Odisha West Bengal coast around 26th day May morning. Rainfall, light to moderate rainfall at most places with heavy falls at isolated places, very likely to commence over the coastal districts of Gangetic West Bengal from 25th May.
Right, to give us more information on this, our correspondent Prasenjit Bakshi joins us live. Prasenjit, good morning to you. First of all, India braces for another cyclone, second cyclone in just a week's time.
Exactly, and for coastal West Bengal and parts of Odisha, it is the second cyclone in the year, because still we remember 20th May of 2020 that there was Amphan, and now it is Yash. As the Met Department said that it has already formed the low pressure area near Andaman Islands, and on today, the 22nd of May, and it will be approaching towards the Odisha and West Bengal coastal area, and likely to hit on 26th of May morning. And the point is that the only concern is that, according to Met Department, this low pressure is going to turn to a cyclonic storm up to 75 km per hour of storm. So it is to be seen, and like Odisha, in West Bengal also, all coastal districts are on high alert, and at the same time the administration in Kolkata is on high alert. The leave and other options are, all options are closed for the municipal corporation employees, the power department employees, the telecom employees and the NDRF. They are all on action, and several pumps in Kolkata is getting ready for the thinking about the heavy to very heavy high rainfall. So all these preparations are going on. Now it is to be seen that how the cyclonic storm approach, as it is said by the Met Department that it will approach to the northwest towards the coastal area of West Bengal and Odisha. If it is true, then on from 25th to this area will be having a heavy to high heavy rainfall. Okay. And but there is a possibility by the Met Department in Kolkata that it may turn.
Absolutely likely to hit the coastal areas of Odisha and West Bengal. Right.
Exactly.
Thank you, Prasenjit. Thank you for giving us your vital inputs. Moving further, the capital woke up with thunderstorms as it rained again this morning in Delhi NCR, and along with the rain, strong winds were also felt. The current change in the weather has lightened the mood of the capital as it felt the coolness and freshness which accompanied the shower spell. The Met Department says that Delhi, Panipat, Rohtak, Faridabad, Gurgaon, Noida and many parts of western Uttar Pradesh will receive rain with strong winds and lightning will strike. And earlier on Friday morning, the weather took a turn in Delhi NCR. It rained for about 2.5 hours with thick clouds in view. India's national carrier Air India has suffered a major cyber attack in which the personal details of the passengers were stolen. The breach involved the data between August 2011 and February 2021. The information stored on the passenger service system includes credit cards and passport details too. The cyber attack on Air India, according to the airline, has affected the data of around 45 lakh flyers around the world. So, this is the statement issued by Air India. Our data processor of the passenger service system, which is responsible for storing and processing of personal information of the passengers, had recently been subjected to a cyber security attack, leading to personal data leak of certain passengers. This incident affected around 45 lakh data subjects in the world. So, the airline, while admitting that details of credit card have also been breached, clarified that CVC numbers, which are key to execute transactions, were not held by its data processor. Air India said it had launched an investigation into the incident and took steps including securing the compromised servers, engaging external specialists of data security incidents, contacting credit card issuers and resetting passwords of its frequent flyer program, that is FFP. Let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the world. The virus has infected more than 16 crore 64 lakh people, while the number of recoveries stand above 14 crore 72 lakh globally. Over 34 lakh 57,000 fatalities due to COVID-19 have been reported worldwide. The United States continues to remain worst affected, with COVID-19 reporting over 3 crore 38 lakh cases of COVID-19. The US reported death toll crossing 6 lakh mark. And now let's give you a quick heads up into what's the coronavirus situation in the world.
The leaders of wealthy nations and big drug makers promise to do more to bridge the startling divide in fighting COVID-19 with an increased flow of badly needed vaccines to poor regions. During a virtual G20 summit in Rome on Friday, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said Europe will donate at least 100 million doses to poor regions by the end of the year. German Chancellor Angela Merkel commits a further 100 million euros to the COVAX Global Vaccine Initiative and donation of up to 30 million surplus vaccine doses to poor countries. Merkel urged other EU countries to follow Germany's example in giving any leftover vaccines to countries that lack their own supplies. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador welcomes US President Joe Biden's proposal to waive the patents for COVID-19 vaccines to allow access for more nations. Biden's administration has backed calls for many developing countries for the patent waiver. Obrador also called for the strengthening of the COVAX mechanism. Argentine President Alberto Fernandez announces that the country will tighten pandemic lockdown measures to combat a severe second COVID-19 wave. The strict circuit breaker measures will come into force starting Saturday and will last until May 31st. They include school and non-essential commerce closures and the banning of social, religious and sporting events. Meanwhile, Argentina's gravediggers are threatening to strike over demands that cemetery workers burying the dead are vaccinated against COVID-19. Argentina's union representing cemetery, crematorium and funeral workers has threatened a national strike if it does not reach a deal with the government on vaccines. The strike could start this week after a government-enforced conciliation period ends. Germany eased restrictions on people who are fully vaccinated or have recovered from the virus from May 9, lifting curfews and quarantine rules as well as the obligation to provide a negative test result to visit a hairdresser, zoo or to go shopping.
And some international stories now coming as a major shift in the US policy on Israel-Palestine conflict. US President Joe Biden says that the Democratic Party still supported Israel and that he was praying that the ceasefire between Israelis and Hamas would hold. Speaking at a White House news conference, Biden said a two-state solution was the only answer to resolving the conflict between the two sides.
There is no shift in my commitment to the security of Israel, period. No shift, not at all. But I tell you what there is a shift in. The shift is that we still need a two-state solution. It is the only answer. the only answer. And I think that, my party still supports Israel. Let's get something straight here. Until the region says unequivocally they acknowledge the right of Israel to exist as an independent Jewish state, there will be no peace.
Meanwhile, in Jordan, thousands of Jordanians gathered next to the Israeli border in solidarity with Palestinians as Israel and Hamas both claimed victory after the forces ended 11 days of fighting. Earlier in the day, thousands of youth gathered close by in Karameh. They carried both the Jordanian and Palestinian flags and made pledges to defend Al-Aqsa. Most of Jordan's 10 million citizens are of Palestinian origin. US President Joe Biden and South Korean President Moon Jae-in on Friday hailed the strength of the alliance between the two countries after the strains of the Trump era during a day of talks expected to be dominated by North Korea, China and COVID-19 vaccines. After a one-on-one meeting in the Oval Office, the two leaders were joined by top aides in the state dining room for a broad discussion that included North Korea's nuclear weapons program. As well as the perennial issue of North Korean nuclear weapons, the allies will discuss regional security more broadly, cooperation in high-tech industries such as microchips, efforts to contain the coronavirus pandemic and stronger action on climate change.
Consulted closely with President Moon's team throughout the process of our DPRK review, and we both are deeply concerned about the situation. Our two nations also share a willingness to engage diplomatically with the DPRK to take pragmatic steps that will reduce tensions as we move toward our ultimate goal of denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Today, I affirm to President Moon that the United States will proceed in close consultation with the Republic of Korea in our strategy and our approach.
Right, and a joint news conference with Moon, Biden said he was willing to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un if Kim agreed to talk about Pyongyang's nuclear weapons program. Thereafter, Korean President Moon Jae-in also met U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and attended a groundbreaking ceremony for a wall of remembrance that will be added to the existing Korean War Veterans Memorial. Moon addressed a crowd of dignitaries that included Korean War veterans ahead of the ceremony. The names of 36,574 U.S. servicemen who died in Korea and 7,200 Koreans who served with them will be included on the wall, which is due to be completed in the summer of 2022, according to the U.S. National Parks Service. A fast-moving brush fire threatened property and prompted evacuation orders in coastal California late Thursday evening. The so-called Loma fire, which broke out in a west side neighborhood of Santa Barbara, has been determined to be 7 acres in size and damaged at least one home before firefighters managed to contain it overnight. The city of Santa Barbara reported an arrest made in the Loma fire incident. Fire investigators believe the Loma fire was an act of arson. Nepal now. Nepal plunges into fresh political turmoil as President Bidya Devi Bhandari dissolves parliament and fixed general elections in November amid a worsening COVID-19 outbreak. The surprise announcement comes after a presidential statement said neither the caretaker Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli nor opposition leader Sher Bahadur Deoba were able to demonstrate a majority to form a new government by the Friday deadline set by Bhandari. A presidential statement issued after midnight ordered the first phase of general elections on November 12th and the second phase on November 19th. It said the decision was made on the recommendation of the cabinet headed by caretaker Prime Minister Oli. That's all we have in this news bulletin. But before we wind up, it's a reminder to use face masks before you step out of your house. Follow COVID appropriate behavior and the guidelines of the government. Namaskar.